Ladies and gentlemen of YouTube, welcome back to the channel. My name is Tojo, and today we're going to be covering a topic that's been bouncing around the Pokemon community for the past couple of months, and that is, are we in a bubble? Now, today we're going to be looking at some key pieces of information around that topic, so stick around to find out my thoughts and opinions on this topic. Let's get this video rolling. So, welcome back guys. Once again, thanks for stopping by on the channel and checking out this video. We've got some really cool stuff today. We've got some screen recording action. I've got a little script next to me. So hopefully I can keep this on track and we can kind of form some kind of sense of like coherent conversation around this topic. So first I'm going to start by answering a couple of questions, and then we'll kind of roll into some of the nitty-gritty details of this topic. So at the moment, things are going pretty crazy, right? There's some big money cards and some big money purchases going on. It's pretty mad. So do I think that the market is in a bit of an inflated state? Honest answer is yes, I do think that is the case at the moment. The prices have been really high, and there's some stuff that I think is overpriced at the moment, and that is just down to shortage of supply and also a massive amount of demand, hype, lots of people jumping into the market. I think some stuff is overpriced. That is my honest opinion. If there is some kind of regression, do I think that these numbers are impossible for the Pokemon market to return to? No, I don't think that's the case. I think we might just be seeing some prices earlier than maybe we expected to see. Something to maybe not back this up, but my thoughts are is that first edition Shadowless Charizard, I genuinely think is the first card. I think it can go all the way. I think it can go to $1 million. And I think the same can be said for sealed base set booster boxes too. I genuinely think that they can get up there. If the sports cards and other memorabilia and collectible pieces out there can hit there, there's a level of nostalgia and story behind Pokemon that I've tuned into and millions of other people across the world have, that I think it can carry up to that figure. So I do think it can get back there. Now, do I think the prices will drop? So, this is a tough one. Now, I can't tell you when it's going to happen. I can't tell you how much buy it's going to happen. But my gut feeling and the general consensus around markets like this, when we see gradual climbs or things push up to kind of these levels so quickly, most of them will see some form of retrace at some point or another. So yeah, I do think at some point, and I think fairly soon, based on some of the decisions that I've been making recently, that we are going to start to see some market retraces. The last and final important question before we get into some details is, are we in a bubble? Now, man, we got to do the whole video to know that question, or maybe we won't even know the answer to that question. But honestly, I don't know. The main thing is, do I think that if it is a bubble, do I think the Pokemon TCG market is receptible to a burst? So like a complete crash? And no, I don't think there is. For me, there's too many dedicated collectors out there for these things to ever become worthless. There's a story behind all of these things, and before this boom, these cards were worth a lot of money anyway. And I think even if things return back to that point, I think we'll still see a market, and there will still be demand for these products in the long run. So before I get into this video, I just want to say that this kind of stuff isn't like my original idea. This video isn't original. I've been watching lots of content creators out there, put videos out like this, and I think I just wanted to throw my hat in the ring, and for you guys to be able to join the conversation as well, have some of my friends and value collectors in the community get involved and open a dialogue with you guys too. So the first thing is, the video that kind of spurred me onto this was this one here, which I'm sorry if I start looking this way, I've got two monitors, my webcam's here, but it is from a channel called The Flex Gods, which I've mentioned on the channel before, I think in my last video maybe, and it is called Stop Buying and Investing in Pokemon Cards. They're strong title, telling you to actually do something, which I don't think so. I don't think I should. I don't know my thoughts on that. I'll leave that. I won't say any more on that. But yeah, they have put together what I thought was quite a good video. It's always great to kind of see, people compare statistics and data and charts and stuff and bounce into other hobbies. But like I said, most of this stuff that I'll be talking about is my own opinions on other information that I've seen. So maybe I'll be paraphrasing some other stuff, quoting some other videos that I've seen in the past. But yeah, these guys did like a nice little comparison. They pulled up here. You can see this is for the first edition. I think this is Shadowless Hollow Charizard, which is up at 25k. So they're looking not first edition, just regular Shadowless Charizard. And looking at graphs like this is important, guys. You know, getting involved in the market and looking at these figures is something that you should do and get yourself involved with. This website that they're using, and I'll be using in the video today, is a site called Pokemon Price. It's got a really good set of kind of graphs and statistics around all of the PSA kind of graded prices and sale prices on the market, and so you can see, you know, trends and where things are moving to. Another good one to use is generally just the PSA official website. You can go and have a look at actual auction prices for cards that currently exist and that are on the market and stuff, and you see the trends for different grades and stuff like that. I use that regularly. You know, it's a good one. So they talk about this kind of Charizard card and they compare it to a baseball card. So let's just jump back into here. You can see this. So what they're trying to do here is show kind of this graph. You look at this pattern that comes up to here, and this, you know, this whole kind of upward trend here, and comparing it to, which I think is a good. I almost went over to the Charizard to their video tab then to change the timestamp. But yeah, you can see here that they've got this. They're comparing this peak to that other baseball card, and I think that's a good thing to do, right? Is you trying to, you know, make cross comparisons and try and understand these two different markets. It's a good place to start. Drawing on other markets to kind of understand and gain insight into the collectibles you're into is a sensible thing to do. You can do it for comic books, coins, art, graded video games. You know, they're all good markets to try and gain insight into, to try and cross-correlate with what's going on with Pokemon at the moment. But realistically, like in my opinion, we haven't seen collectibles like this for a long enough time to know for sure where these markets are going to go. I still don't think we have enough data to be able to forecast where this stuff goes. You know, collectibles is kind of a fairly, especially like things like Pokemon cards, books, art, you know, maybe not art, but you know, video games. These are all fairly modern concepts with, I don't think, enough time for us to be able to forecast and draw on past experiences to know for certain where these things are going to go. You know, for every kind of Beanie Baby market, which people like to, you know, they like to shit on it and say, oh, you know, they were up at millions and they've crashed. Recently, there's been a resurgence in the Beanie Baby market, like there just is. But, you know, for every market, you know, every market, like a Beanie Baby market, there's another one. So say like, I don't know, like Star Wars toys. Recently there was a sale in Birmingham, like in my local area in England, for an old lot of sealed, you know, Star Wars collectibles, and they went for hundreds of thousands of dollars. You know, it was like I think it was like £280,000 for, you know, a just sealed set of toys. So for every time there's a failure, there's a failed market for a niche, a collectible niche, there's a success story. So we can't just hone in on one and just take that as gospel. You have to try and make sense of the current situation and the symptoms of what's going on in the market to understand, kind of form your own opinion and try and see where things are going and kind of act proactively. So anyway, back to the Flex Cards video. They looked at this Charizard card, which I think, like I said, is a good thing to look at. But let's have a look at some other cards as well, 'cause I think that's really important, is to look at, you know, let's not just look at the number one, the OG, the one that's got all the attention. Let's have a look at some other cards. So this Pokemon Price site, like I said, is really good. You can go over to here, you can go to sets, and you can have a look at kind of the price for or the tracked history for any cards from any of the Pokemon release sets. Is awesome. It's a really good site. So yeah, if we just go over to, so this is the first edition Shadowless Hollow Charizard. I know I said I wouldn't look at it, but yeah, let's just cross compare. So we can see this trend, and then here's this spike that we're all talking about. This crazy uptick where we go from settling around, you know, 4, 5k, 6k, and then we start to climb. We go way past the $10,000 mark, and we're flying at this point. But let's have a look at some other ones. So if we look at the first edition, obviously the pop report is also something that you should look at, guys. So this is a very low population card. It's a rare card. So this is something I think will, in the long term anyway, hold its value. Or it's a safer bet than, say, some other cards that we're about to look at. But anyway, let's have a look at some other cards. So if we look at Dark Charizard from the Team Rocket expansion, The pop reports for this are a lot higher. There's a lot more cards. But I mean, this is the we're seeing the same graph. We're seeing the same graph, guys. So I've gone ahead and kind of filtered out all the lower end because we'll have these kind of brackets around from the PSA 9 to maybe 7 mark is where we'll see the most amount, the largest sample size of data. So that's kind of where you want to be at. You want to be seeing them, and it's why I've taken out some of the 10s because there's less of these sales I think going around, and you'll see bigger jumps. So it's more important to kind of look at the the sales where there's going to be more frequent. It gives you a better idea of the market. So first edition Dark Charizard, exactly the same. We see this kind of like bounce here, this small dip, and then this huge spike. That's something we need to keep an eye on, guys. So let's have a look at Fossil. So I'd say Dragonite's probably the chase card in this set. So let's go ahead and pull down PSA 8 and 9s for these. So you can see really nice, steady, slow growth, nice, easy kind of variable trend of around, the $50 mark up to $100 mark for 3 years, 2-3 years, and then a huge at time relatively quite a large spike, a big jump, nice little settle, and then a huge spike again. Next card is Vaporeon first edition from the Jungle set. So we get PSA 8s and 9s. Again, we kind of see this little spike here, guys, and then a little settle, and then a big spike here, a little bit of a settle, and then a huge spike again. So it's that kind of roller coaster effect. What's next? Oh, the legend himself. Neo Genesis Lugia, one of my favourite cards of all time, favourite Pokemon of all time. And so PSA 8s and 9s, again, we see this spike up here towards like the middle, I think like April, May time of this year. A little settle, and then a huge spike again. Huge spike again. So that's kind of it for some modern cards. Let's try and kind of see some more modern stuff I think is also important to look at. So let's have a look at kind of the oh crap, just smacked the mic. The modern bubble against like, some the vintage cards. So for me, like if you look at these cards, now I know this is kind of a smaller time frame. If you look, this is from December 2019 in comparison to, these cards are a lot older, so they've got, obviously by nature, they've got a larger kind of track history. But if you look at this Mewtwo card, we're here at like, a very easy, just around the $100 mark, and it's just like a slow increase, and then a very easy settle around August. Just like a really, maybe even a steady decline there in the PSA 8s and 9s. I think there's only been one sale of an 8. Wow, that's crazy. So yeah, 9s and 10s, very easy. Just a small trend up, and then a very easy kind of flat line. Let's have a look at Charizard from Hidden Fates. Again, looking very similar, guys. Look at that slow, steady kind of healthy growth, and then a little bit of a jump up. Oh, sorry, I didn't zoom out there. Sorry. So this is the big release of Hidden Fates, and we can see once the hype dies down, we have like a nice, easy, steady settle, and then a kind of a steady growth, a bit of a spike again in around like mid this year, where we kind of see here. There you go. Look, here's that spike that we're talking about. This same with like Vaporeon. Let's go to Dragonite as well. Mid this year. Hold on, what are you doing? Come on, behave, graph. There we go. Mid this year, look, there we go. 5th and 6th. There's that climb, and then there's that settle, and then we've got this spike. But we're not seeing that in these modern cards. Look, they're just settling. They're just sitting in the same kind of ballpark for the last 3-4 months. Apart from the vintage cards, they're not doing that. Umbreon, okay, one of my favourite cards from Hidden Fates, beautiful card. Doing exactly the same thing. We see this climb around the mid-year, and then it just sits in the same position. Now, why is it important to look at these other cards? Well, modern looks one way, and vintage looks the other. That's what I'm trying to get at. So all vintage cards seems to be following the same trend, no matter what kind of their set rarity is. So if we look at some less rare cards, maybe from, well, actually, first edition Shadows cards are pretty rare, but if you look at the pop reports, 9 and 10s are very heavily weighed for this common card from the set. And we see exactly the same pattern that we saw as those Charizard hollows, the Dragonite hollow from Jungle, from Fossil, sorry, the Vaporeon hollow from Jungle. Common cards, they're doing exactly the same thing. It's the same price hike. Let's go to another one. Onyx, just an Onyx, you know, just a standard, really, really like common card, easy to grade if it's packed fresh. Same climb, look, that ridiculous steep incline. Squirtle, so starters, very, very in demand at the moment. Made a video on those very recently. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. Made a very recent video on starters on this channel if you want to go check that out. But yeah, if I just take out the 7s and below here and try and kind of I mean, look at that. Look how steady that is. It's just kind of sitting in the same regions. 60 until April, we were at $65, which is super similar to, like, say, you know, like mid 2019. Before then, it was kind of around, you know, there was a few $50 for 8s. Let's try and, if I can zoom in here, actually, let's have a look. So 2018, end of 2018, $50 for a Squirtle. Let's go back a little bit further. $20 in 2017. You know, this is kind of, apart from this, that's definitely an anomaly, guys. Like, don't take that into account. That data point should really be removed, I think. That anyway. You go a bit further on and, you know, we're still sitting in the same ballpark, but we move forward and just look at what happens. Again, we see this surge mid-year, then we have this settle, and then we have more spikes again recently. Like $1,500 for a PSA 9 Shadowless First Edition Squirtle. It's mental. It's absolutely mental. So we're talking about, you know, in Modern, you can already see like localized kind of settles and retraces in recent times, but for Modern, you know, well, Modern, you can see, like on that Charizard card, we saw that, you know, that trend go down, and then it settles, and then we get that steady climb, and then it settles, and they look a lot more kind of stable. Whereas, you know, we're looking at these more vintage cards, and they're just all flying. They're absolutely flying at the moment. And it comes into that topic where people say, you know, we hear people in the community, or people who are new to the community, or you know, anyone just say, you know, Pokemon can only go up. It's a famous phrase, Pokemon can only go up. But, you know, they'll say things like, what about the boom of 2016? You know, we've seen this before, like it's happened again. I just don't believe those words. Like, based on what we're seeing right now, those steep increases that we saw on those vintage cards, I don't think it's the same. I don't think we're in the same situation. You know, 2016, if we talk about that boom, that was kind of like the last big one that a lot of people were talking about. And that was the release of Pokemon Go in July that year. And I believe October, November time, that's when XY Evolutions, another thing that's boomed recently, came into the fray, brought a lot of people back into the hobby. So we saw an influx of people into the hobby, into the area of Pokemon, and thus a lot of the cards jumped up in price. At the time, relatively, it was quite a big spike. Yeah, it was. But if we go back to then, you know, if we're talking about, people are relating these points and saying, we've seen booms like this before. What they're trying to do is use past experiences and history in this hobby to kind of relate and kind of justify costs, or try and match maybe their rhetoric that they're trying to portray into the hobby, and whether they think things are safe, whether they think these prices are healthy, you know. But if we go back to that, you know, let's not talk about feelings, let's talk about stats. If we go back to that point, like I said, 2016, if we look at, say, you know, this is back in 2016, let's get 10s up as well, and 8s. 2016, Squirtle, sales on here, $20, $30, $30, $20, $20. It's not moving, guys. It isn't moving. And maybe some other cards did, you know. Maybe let's look at let's go to, say, let's have a look at Charizard back then. So let's go back to the start of this graph and go to 2016. And let's have a look. So PSA 9s around the $1,500 mark. We're pushing up towards $2,000, up towards $2,000, $3,000, $3,000, still going up. Now we're into 2017, late 2017 here. So rather than a boom, you know, you've got to think, is this just healthy growth for a card that was rare and in demand after the release of Evolutions? This trend here, where it jumps up and it goes from a 500% increase, we go from $1,500, $2,000, up to around the £5,000 mark. Look, we see this dip again. Look, it comes back down to 5,000. And if we keep going, this is like a steady, this is an easy Eddie price. And on the 9s and on the 8s here, I don't know about the 10s. Let's have a look at the 10s. Okay, the 10s grew a little bit, but I kind of always expect them to. This is the epitome of the Pokemon hobby, but this is a steady growth, guys. This is a steady growth. And if we push forward to, this year, let's take 10s off because there's just anomalies there. Is this the same? Going from, 8k, let's go to the start of this year. Let's go to the start of lockdown. 5 grand here for a PSA 9. And then we go to 5 grand and we go up to 6, 10k, 12k. Now we're looking at 19 grand, 20 grand, $55,000 in a PSA 9. This isn't, in my opinion, this isn't the same level of growth, and it isn't the same, situation. So we can't assign the same symptoms or see the same symptoms to perform the same diagnosis. It isn't the same symptoms, so it isn't the same diagnosis. So I think right now we're in uncharted territory, and I'm seeing the same people that said, look at like the past times, look at what happened in 2016, look at the boom, look at the 2008 recession. I found a few of them are kind of changing their tune right now. Some of them are selling. If you look at Gary or King Pokemon, who said he would never sell certain Charizards, he sold some Charizards. Like, he sold a few to Logan Paul, someone who said he never needed the money. You have to think about the checkouts of these collectors. Like, Gary, I love Gary, but like, he has to, there's a point where he retires or, doesn't work anymore. Maybe he doesn't need the money. I don't know his personal situation, but the point is that he has sold some Charizards, and whether he sold it for exposure to, celebrities like Logan Paul, etc., etc., like, he's still selling. That's something to consider and to think about. Some are adopting the same, like, some are adopting the message of like, if the crash comes, then I'll buy. Like, I'm in that situation. If things start to crash and the prices go down a little bit, of course I'll be buying. Like, for me, that's a win. Like, I want the cards. And then some of them are saying like, oh, I'll still be around, long after this year. And when people are saying things like that, for me, it starts to get into the air of like, are they thinking something's coming? Can they see something's coming? They're not talking the same way that they were, 2 months ago, a month ago. So for me, these are all symptoms that I start to read into. Now, that doesn't mean that things are definitely coming, that there is a crash coming, but it does mean something, I think, anyway. But where does all of this stuff that we're talking about and all these stats we're looking into kind of fit into the big question of like, are we actually in a bubble? So I think a good thing to look at is, let's have a look at some models. So I see this graph get thrown around quite a lot. I remember it surfacing itself during the whole like crypto boom. And if you look at this, it's called like the kind of this. I think it's called bear trap. This is where I think I need people like Pokejebel who's actually qualified in this stuff to give me a bit of insight into economics. But if we kind of look, I've seen a few people compare some of these PokemonPrice.com and these like sales graphs and figures graphs to this steep incline that we're seeing. I mean, the trend follows, right? But when we see this kind of, this is where we start to think about like, are we in a bubble and are we about to see a crash, and when do we return to the mean? And I can't say when that's going to happen, but what I can do is cross-correlate what I'm seeing in the hobby to these graphs and what's happening. So if we look at this kind of if we look at this model, basically what this is telling us is what happens when people like invest in any form of asset. So we talk about kind of there's these different phases. So we've got like the stealth phase, awareness phase, mania phase, and the blow-off phase. So this point here in the blow-off phase is where you're going to start to see a market crash or a bubble pop or prices just declining. And I don't think we've seen any like a shape like this in Pokemon yet, and I don't think we have enough data to be able to say, this for certain that we've seen patterns like this before. Maybe we have, I don't know. Maybe I'm not aware of it. If you are aware of it, then let me know. But at the moment, this kind of sharp spike that we're seeing on these prices, especially like we're talking about on these vintage cards, it looks like this sharp upward trend. And if we look at the kind of the most recent stuff, when we were talking about the kind of the settle, where there's like the first hike, and then like here the first hike, and then a little bit of a settle, and then again the second boom. which is apparent in all of these cards. Like if we look at Charizard, we can do exactly the same. Here's this first boom, the settle, and then the spike. We go to this first edition Charizard. Let's get some other data in here too. I don't know whether we'll actually be able to do this for Charizard because there's just so little sales figures because it's such a rare card. This is why I chose to choose other cards, guys, because we can see that's Lugia, next best thing in my opinion. If we look at these prices, you got a big increase, sales and settling here, and then a huge spike again. I mean, it doesn't lie. Like, is that part of the bear trap phase? And then are we getting into this point? And if we look at kind of the other factors around this model, this mania phase that we're talking about is media attention, enthusiasm, greed, delusion. I mean, are we seeing that? Am I just being super like negative? Am I being cynical? But like media attention, Pokemon's all over the news. Greed, delusion. We're starting to see fake boxes, scams, crypto investors coming into the hobby. Egghead Guru doing his thing, whatever. I don't like the guy. I don't care about his opinion. I don't care about other people's opinions. Of my opinion on him, I don't like him. I think he's a dick and I think he's bad for the hobby. But people like him coming in, are we starting to see the greed phase? Other investors. We've got dumb money investments. We've got ridiculous. We've got celebrities coming in left, right, and centre. Are we in this phase right now, guys? I don't know. I can't answer that question. All I can do is, like I said before, assign the symptoms and try and find a reasonable diagnosis, and then use that to decide what I do in the hobby with some of my, collectibles and my investments. So if we look at like what a bubble is, like a bubble, the kind of 5 stages, I suppose, because that's important to like understanding what a bubble is. So we've got these 5 kind of defined stages of a bubble. So the first stage is displacement. So that first stage is a displacement occurs when investors get enamored by a new paradigm. God damn it, English, Jesus, man. I'm so sorry. A new paradigm, such as an innovative new technology or interest rates that are historically low. I mean, my interest rates on some of my savings accounts are getting slashed, but maybe that's another thing to think about as well, guys. Anyway, I digress. A classic example of displacement is the decline in the federal funds rate from 6.5% in July 2000 to 1.2% in June 2003. Some of this might not mean anything to you guys. Over this 3-year period, the interest rate on 30-year fixed rate mortgages fell by 2.5%, points to a historic low of 5.23, showing the seeds of the subsequent housing bubble. So I think they're talking about the lead up to the AB mortgage or whatever it was, crashing the States that happened over there in 2008. Anyway, second stage is a boom. Prices rise slowly at first following a displacement, then gain momentum as more and more participants enter the market, setting the stage for a boom phase. During this phase, the asset in question attracts widespread media coverage, fear of missing out, FOMO, you hear that a lot in the community, on what could be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, spurs more speculation, drawing an increased number of investors and traders into the fold. All very applicable to what we've been seeing. Euphoria. During this phase, caution is thrown to the wind and asset prices skyrocket. I'm smiling because I'm feeling it. Valuations reach extreme levels during this phase as new valuation measures and metrics are touted to justify the relentless rise and the greater fool theory. The idea that no matter how the prices go, there will always be a market of buyers willing to pay more plays out everywhere. The prices can only go up, guys. How many times have you heard that? For example, at the peak of the Japanese real estate bubble in 1989, land in Tokyo sold for as much as blah, blah. Okay, right, that's just case studies. I mean, you guys can read into this. I'll probably drop the link to this in the description. Case studies are really good for you to kind of like do your own research and look into, no matter what the market is, right? We were talking earlier, cross-translating markets, past experiences. It's always a good thing to do. Stage 4, profit taking. In this phase, the smart money, heeding the warning signs that the bubble is about at its bursting point, starts selling positions and taking profits. That sucks, but I mean, I've been doing it with some shadowless cards. I think maybe that's the stage that I'm at. I don't know. I can't tell you for certain, guys. But estimating the exact time when a bubble is due to collapse can be difficult exercise because, as economist John Maynard Keynes put it, the market can stay irrationally longer than you can stay solvent. In August 2007, for example, French bank BNP Paribas halted with withdrawals from 3 investment funds with substantial exposure to US subprime mortgages because it could not value their holdings. Okay. So that's that stage. God, it's a bit bleak, isn't it, really? 5. Panic. It only takes a relatively minor event to prick a bubble, but once it is pricked, the bubble cannot inflate again. In the panic stage, asset prices reverse course and descend rapidly as they have ascended. Investors and speculators faced with margin calls and plunging values of their holdings now want to liquidate at any price. Now, liquidity is, for those of you who don't know, that is kind of like the definition of how easy it is for you to sell an asset in a closed market. So like in Pokemon, let's say Charizards are super liquid because lots of people want to buy Charizards. Caterpies aren't liquid or have low liquidity because there's not a lot of people interested in buying Caterpies. That's just how it is. So I think stage 5 at the moment, like this is where I'll express a bit of my opinion, stage 5 is the only thing where maybe we don't get a bubble burst, like I'm saying. Maybe there is a retrace. This is where like a market completely collapses. And like I can be 100% honest with you guys in that at the moment I'm selling some of my stuff that I've had since the start of this year. I'm selling some of the stuff that I've had for a long time, or considering I'm considering parting ways with some really sentimental pieces of my collection, some of my complete WotC sets, because the prices are so damn good at the moment. But honestly, like, the one thing that keeps me around is nostalgia. Like, nostalgia keeps me around, and this is where the Pokemon market is different to anything else that's kind of out there. Well, is it? No, I don't know. But this is where Pokemon is a little bit different to traditional like stocks and shares. Is that people aren't buying? A lot of people aren't buying maybe for monetary gain reasons. They're buying because they have the money, they have the expendable income, and they want to buy into nostalgia. So that's where I think Pokemon, despite all of these models and stats and graphs, is it's different to traditional stocks and assets. People right now are paying for nostalgia, whether that's Logan Paul or Logic or Steve Aoki or even just me. Nostalgia is driving a lot of what people are buying. But it's really important to not discount the wider effect that the wider public and outside investors can have on a market like Pokemon, like we're seeing at the moment. I'm not here to tell you a definitive answer of whether we're in a bubble or whether we're not. Hand on heart, I can't tell you, and I don't think anyone else can either. Like, all I can do is kind of point you guys in the direction of information that I'm seeing, stuff that I've got access to and that you've got access to, and hope that it serves you well, with the decisions that you make, and hope that it provides, useful for you to form your own opinions so that you can, make maybe better informed decisions. If you are still at this here in the video at this point, I'd like to say a huge thank you for you sticking around. I hope I haven't bored you to death and that you found some of this information, interesting and insightful. Please, if you have anything to add, any thoughts or opinions or anything that you think I might have missed, then please drop it down in the comment section below. I'd love to hear from you guys, and I love just having discussions about this stuff with other members in the community. So that's going to be everything for today, guys. Don't forget to do all the good stuff, the liking, the subscribing, all that stuff's free. And anyway, I suppose that's going to be it. So I'll see you guys in the next video. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time. Peace.